Well, hello all and welcome to week 5. All right, just a review, and it's important this week that if any of these concepts are a little foggy to you because we've covered them a month ago, then this is the week to anchor back to them. So you may have to go back to some of our original lectures, but remember, we really need to go back to the founding documents, especially the Constitution this week. We were going back this week to concepts of federalism. We covered the Pendleton Act, Wilson's dichotomy, Taylor. Make sure you're anchored to Taylor. If you don't remember that video, that like hour-long video we covered, this is another good week to go back and refresh on that. We need to be anchored to Taylor and Weber this week for our material. We covered Goodnow, we covered Follett, and we've been covering many more kind of organizational theory authors. None of these are going to pop up again this week, I don't think, but the core foundational ones that we covered in 1 and 2 will. All right, this week we're moving into a new section. This is the 1960s and the 1970s, and so for any of you, I'm sure for most of you, this is history. For some of us, it is a walk down memory lane. Okay, so what I need you to do this week, we only have 3 readings, but there's a lot of information that you need to think through this week. So I need you to focus on the changes that were occurring, theoretical changes, not cultural, but you need context. The theoretical changes that were coming in the 1960s and 70s that were challenging some of our core theories. I need you, as you go through the material this week, and you're going to have to refresh on that earlier stuff, do you agree with the changes in theories that were occurring in the 60s and 70s? Do you think it should go back to the original theory? Do you think that the changes were not really changes, it was just a different way of looking at it and they were looking at it wrong? And or do we need to change again? Again, at a master's level, it is not your job to regurgitate whatever people have said in the past. It's your job to begin making very complex connections between multiple theories and to be able to have an opinion on that. All right, so yes, you need to know the theories, you need to know the book report stuff, but it's much, much beyond that at a master's level. First article I want you to read, well, actually, let me go back. The first bullet there where it says read part 3 overview, at the beginning of each section there's, 4, 5, 6 pages that gives context. I want you to read that first section before the Katz and Kahn article. And that will give you, for this week and next week, that will give you context. And that's really a powerful section because it's helping you make sense of these random articles. After you read that, and you may have to reread it again next week, then I want you to read the Katz and Kahn article, which I think is the first one in this section. They're going to be talking in this one about an open systems theory, and they're going to be rethinking this concept of the one best way. Now, who was the one best way? Hopefully you are yelling out Taylor right now. Then the next one is Grodzin, and I can never say that name right. And he's going to be rethinking this concept of federalism. And this is going to go back and anchor to the Constitution. And then Anthony Downs is rethinking bureaucracy. And when you think bureaucracy, who are you thinking about? Please tell me you're yelling Max Weber at me. All right, so these articles are augmenting, challenging, redirecting, depending on the article, where we were originally. So the Katz and Kahn article he's going to talk about this kind of open and closed theory, the system. This is a 10-minute video. This is a must-see video. And I want you, as they're going through this concept, to listen to the references of Taylor that's going to come out through it. So think about the Katz and Kahn article. When you read that, I want you to think about it in relation to the Taylor article or the Taylor concept. And when we think Taylor, we can probably think fail. When we're thinking about fail, we can probably think a little bit about leading into the kind of bureaucratic approach. So all these start tying together, and that's your job, is to see how they're connected, how they're similar, how they're different. The next article is the one I can't pronounce, Grodzin's article. And he's rethinking this concept of dual federalism. So I don't know if you remember in the first week, we talked about dual federalism and cooperative federalism. This is where cooperative federalism began, or the concept of it. So in this article, you'll see that reference to that marble cake federalism. This first video is a rerun from, I don't know, week 1 or 2. It's 9 minutes long, and it talks about federalism in general, both dual federalism and cooperative federalism. This is a good way to anchor to the concepts again. Then this video is quite long. This is that Hip Hughes. I don't know if we had a Hip Hughes video. I think we did. But this is 27 minutes. This is going to take a while to go through. And it's probably going to take you longer than 27 minutes. But I want you really solid on this concept of federalism. And again, this is the high school teacher, but he's going to be relating it to the Constitution and sections or articles within the Constitution. What I'd really encourage you to do is to either print out a copy of the Constitution from the internet or have it open. I tend to print things out because that's just how I am, and I'm going to make notes on it. So as he's talking through these concepts, you may want to be making notes, highlighting the Constitution itself, and really take this moment to anchor to these concepts. So this crash course video will give you an overview, and the Hip Hughes video will get you really deep into this concept of federalism and the Constitution, how those work together. And then you kind of moving on to the new article this week. Now I want to talk about Anthony Downs' article. He is now rethinking bureaucracies. So when you think about federalism and you think about the one best way and scientific management, you think about Max Weber and bureaucracy. Now the theorists are beginning to turn these things a little bit. If you kind of think of a prism, they're turning the prism around. This first video is a concept video. It's only 10 minutes long. It's a crash course video, but not by the performers that we've seen so far. This one's a woman. But it gives you context of who Max Weber was. So this is really a sociology video, and it's talking about Max Weber, but deeper into who Max Weber was, what his other contributions were other than bureaucracy, how it relates to this kind of Protestant work ethic. And you can see a lot of that kind of work ethic coming out of this concept of a bureaucracy. So this is a real conceptual, foundational concept that I want you to get to, but it's not going to directly relate necessarily. It's going to give you a wider view of Weber, who, if you talk bureaucracy, you have to talk Weber. Then this one, I don't think we had this one yet, but this is bureaucracy basics. So again, kind of going back to those core basic theories of bureaucracy. And then these are both crash course videos. They're not too long, but this will talk about types of bureaucracies. And so I think if you anchor to all of these concepts between Weber, the basics of bureaucracies, types of bureaucracies, and then read Anthony Downs' article, then maybe you can see where we were and where we were, well, I'm going to say where we are now, but 1960s and 70s, we've moved since. But, it might give you a better idea of this movement between periods, eras, let's say. This last one is just a PowerPoint slide, and it's on Anthony Downs' article. But you can't, I actually don't understand what this website is, so kind of bear with me on this. But somebody has already kind of outlined Anthony Downs' article and put these PowerPoint slides up there. So, okay, that's good. If If you are one to like to see an outline before you read a chapter, this is a good tool. It's just PowerPoint slides. There's no narration to it at all. So you may want to, but I think you'd have to take the notes down by hand or something like that. Anyway, if you like these, use them. If not, but again, it's going to talk about this kind of life cycle of bureaus. That's Anthony Downs' article. And so this one will help you kind of make that transition from the bureaucracy to these bureaus that he's talking about. Okay, so the writing assignment this week, and since we're back into the 60s and 70s, that typewriter right there is very similar to the one I wrote my college papers on. So yes, we did not have PCs or Macs or anything like that when I was in school. This is how we actually typed our papers. So no complaints over writing assignments anymore when you think about where we came from and had to write papers. All right, aside from that. So this week is just a 2 to 3 page writing assignment. Again, perfect APA. You're going to have a nice title page, a nice reference page. Remember how to do the references properly if you're citing like Wilson, Taylor, or Weber, that the citation is actually Taylor, like 1912 or whatever it is, in the classics book. And so up in the Ask Your Instructor area, I think is where I posted some assistance on that. So what I want you to do this week is compare and contrast the theories covered in the readings this week with our core foundational theories and concepts from the founding of our country through the 1950s. Now, I do not want a book report. Remember this. I want a thesis, develop a thesis to form the paper and then develop your broad themes. And so it's not this person, you're not writing the book report. This person said this and this person said that, but you're looking through the changing times and you're using the authors to support what you're about to say. Think about I don't know if we've talked about this yet, if you're going to go watch a movie and tonight and you're going to go tell somebody about it, or a new one of the TV shows or something, you're going to go into work tomorrow and you're going to tell somebody about it. You're going to say it in your own words. You're going to describe it. You're going to explain your interpretation of it. But if you had to go back and then use portions of the movie or the TV show to support what you said, you could do that. It's the same thing. You're putting everything aside and you're coming up with your interpretation of it using all of these theories and all of these concepts to support what you're about to say. We know that this week we have people kind of revising Taylor, people revising Weber, people revising, but don't limit yourself there. If you can bring in Mary Parker Follett or Henri Fayol or any other concepts, the Bill of Rights, the Pendleton Act, I don't know. But whatever you can bring in, you're trying to go for this robust concept of a paper. If you guys need to talk to me like live, we have this, and I would really like you, before we leave this class, I really want everybody to experience a live session. So sometime this week I'm going to try to put something up where we could have a live session. You don't have to come, you don't have to, it's still going to be optional, but other classes are going to have these opportunities, and I want you comfortable with it. So at some point between now and the end of class, we're going to, I want everybody, I want everybody to show up to one of the live sessions for the experience of it. I want you to make sure that you can do it either on your phone or on your iPad or tablet, or you can do it on the computer, but I want everybody comfortable with this, so I want you to have done it once with me so I can help you through this. The other thing, and this is a good time to say this, after I don't have you anymore, which is sad, but after I send you off to the next class and the next professor, please know that just like in regular traditional classes, every professor runs their classes differently. So I'm very heavy into presentations every week. I record my presentations every week. Some you won't have recorded presentations. I do a lot of multimedia stuff. Others may not do any of that. I will have live sessions for office hours. Others may not do that. And then they may be requiring something different. If anybody has had an emergency during this class and they've asked for an extension, of a day or so on an assignment, and I've said yes, that's my rules in my class. You may have another professor who, under no circumstances, will give an extension. So again, since many of you are in this class for the first time, please know that you need to get, even though this is online and a lot of it is kind of structured the same, that every professor is very different in how they assign, what they assign, what rules they have in their classroom, just like everybody else. So I just wanted to take a moment to go through that on this. All right, and a multimedia discussion board, because I am big on multimedia discussion boards rather than just straight discussion boards. Again, 3 to 4 minutes, and I want you to present a summary of the information that will be in your paper, because this is due before your paper, regarding the classics theories, and concepts, and those from the 1960s and 70s. So again, your title slide, name, course date, that kind of stuff, overview of what you're about to be covered, or a cover, and then your content. That might be 3 slides, 5 slides, I don't know. But then after you kind of cover your compare and contrast, I want your view. Which should it be? If we're saying it's different from our foundational concepts, is it different good, different bad? Or is it no longer that today? 60s and 70s were quite a while ago. So is it changing now? So your view, which should it be? Should it be the way it was originally? Should it be what it was in the 60s and 70s? Or none of the above? It should be something totally different now. So just kind of one slide to maybe recap what it is that your thoughts on this. Maybe a reference slide and then a closing slide. I think it's always good practice to have that title slide, and part of that is if in real life, if you're doing this live, as people walk into your presentation, it's always nice to have a title slide up there. So they come in and they know, oh yeah, I'm actually in the right room or the right meeting or the right class. And then after you're done, it's always nice to have that closing slide. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Something like that, so that as people are leaving the room, there's a slide up there that's not the black screen. It's just a closing slide. So that title slide is good for people coming in. The closing slide is good for people walking out, and then content kind of in the middle. So those are just some practices that are good to have. And even in that we're online presentations, still a good kind of process to go through. And then make sure that after you're done recording this, upload it to YouTube or some other hosting site, whatever you guys are using now. And then by Sunday, comment on at least 2 other students' posts. Again, our comments are really focused on the presentation, not so much the content. Again, I'm going to take this opportunity to say other classes might be they might want very heavy content responses. And although we'll get to that, that's not what we're doing right now. It could be, but I want you to really hear it. And again, when you're listening to other people, even though I'm only asking for you to look at their presentation skills, please take that opportunity to listen to what they're saying. Listen to their viewpoints, especially this week, I would say, because we're really getting into some deep kind of thought process, deep master's level work this week. And I'd like you to see how other people are processing this information. I want you to listen. Are they doing really book report stuff, or are they getting to some core foundational ideas as they're going through? So this is a really good week. Again, if you don't have to listen to more than 2, but if you have your computer handy and you're doing the dishes or something, just try to listen to what everybody else is saying. One, obviously look at the production they're doing, but then listen to what people are saying and what their ideas are and how they differ from yours or how they're similar to yours. So, kind of enjoy that process. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on this week. If you have any questions, please let me know. And in the meantime, have a very blessed week, and I look forward to seeing all of your writings and presentations this week.